Okay, so let's press this.
Hold it!
You really don't have any recollection of your old flower-selling self, do you? Oh, I don't. When a witch becomes a shade, they lose all memory of their past life. They lose their memories, but why?
And yet you still have some grasp of the concept of magic, do you not, Witness?
Let me spell it out for you. Magic does not exist in Eldritch Woods. Oh, but there are actually lots of things back in the forest that I have not seen in this town. There are things you haven't seen here? Like really huge machines, that sort of thing. There's one that spits fire out with such amazing speed, and then it expels these huge plumes of grey smoke.
A machine that spits fire? Never have I heard such a thing. Are you certain that these machines of which you speak are not simply magic?
You know, now that you mention it, I don't think anyone from this town can actually see those of us from the forest. They can't see you? Could it be something like that rogue?
How could such a thing even be possible without magic?
Objection.
Objection. Huh. Okay.
Miss Darklaw, if I may interrupt you for just a moment.
What is it, Inquisitor Layton?
Through your testimony just now, we have all come to understand the process of how one becomes a shade. However, I was hoping you could perhaps elaborate on one additional point. Namely, what exactly is the purpose behind the shades?
If you wish to know our purpose, there are certain other things you must first understand. Once you've done that, the answer should be quite clear. Isn't that right, Defender? The purpose behind the shades? Rest assured, you'll not get the answer from me. As the saying goes, the witch is in your court, Defender. Sounds like Darklaw's challenging me to figure this out. Challenge accepted. Alright, so the true purpose of the shades to dwell within Eldritch Woods. Let's press.
Hold it!
Miss Darklaw, what is the purpose of the shades? As mistress to the shades, I cannot disclose the purpose of their existence.
Well then, since Miss Darklaw is unable to tell us herself, it seems we must rely on evidence instead.
Evidence, huh?
I do believe the shades could have something to do with that which exists in this town but ought not to.
Something that exists but shouldn't?
Well, Defender, are you prepared to present evidence?
I'm gonna get a hint. It says I'm prepared. Shit. I was bored ready, Your Honor. Something that exists in this town but shouldn't. I think I know what you're getting at, Professor.
Defender, please present your evidence.
Yes, Your Honor. The purpose of the shades could be to make sure this particular thing exists. Okay, it's not anything here. It's a Grand Grimoire. Huh? Amalia? I guess just the book? Present the book itself?
Take that!
Something that doesn't exist? I have a feeling no one is going to like that answer I'm about to give, but it'll probably end up shaking this town to its core. But I gotta tell them, the truth has to come out. Since I arrived here in Labyrinthia, there's been no shortage of really strange events. Ignace, Demir, Goldor, and now Grand Worm.
The mere command of magic is in itself a crime, is it not?
In this town, witches are arrested and made to participate in witch trials. They are then sentenced to death by fire. But none of these witches actually died. That's supposed death by fire wasn't real. And neither is magic. It doesn't really exist.
What are you saying, Defender?
The Eldritch Woods apparently contain some rather large machines, unlike anything that exists within Labyrinthia. Machines that emit fire and produce large plumes of smoke. To top it all off, the citizens of Labyrinthia are not able to see said machines.
It sounds like nothing more than magic.
Yes, that's exactly it, Your Honor. Miss Darklaw. Magic doesn't really exist in this town. That's the answer, isn't it?
Magic does not... what utter nonsense!
It seems we have finally arrived at the stunning conclusion. The secret behind Labyrinthia.
What? What?
Rubble! So you mean to say that David Blaine isn't real?
Order, I say! What is the meaning of this?
It means that all the magic you've seen in this town was nothing more than an illusion created and put into motion by the Shades, much like all of Chris Angel's work.
But Defender, the witches, we've clearly seen them use magic.
Let us take a moment to think carefully about the systems employed by the Shades.
Systems?
What is essential in order for a witch to use magic? The witch must possess a Telea Magica and must say an incantation in order to cast a spell.
And the spell is able to be cast and determined by the Scepter's magic gems. Now, what do you think is the purpose of placing such requirements on the use of magic? What do you mean, purpose?
These requirements are not there to allow the user to cast magic. Rather, the reality is they are there to inform the Shades of who should be using magic. It is possible that witches were always being closely observed by Shades. That's why they donned these robes, to appear hidden until they were needed to create magic.
Create?
Indeed, there are all kinds of spells within this town. It would be quite troublesome if they were simply allowed to use any spell at will. Yeah, it would make the Shade's job that much more difficult for sure.
Precisely so. That is why it was imperative that a certain restriction be placed on the use of magic.
Ah, you're referring to the Telea Magica, right, Professor?
Of course. No wonder the scepter could contain only 2 magic gems.
Then there's the incantation. What would happen if a witch would simply whisper the incantation quietly to herself or not even say it at all? Boy, that'd be so cool. I'd be casting spells all day long and no one would ever see it coming. Maya, you spent an entire trial proving you were a witch, remember? If the witches didn't give some sort of signal, then there would be no way for the Shades to know when to cast the spell.
Right you are, Mr. Wright.
The incantations were a way of telling the Shades when the witch was ready to use magic.
What on earth? Never did I think these requirements could have such a purpose.
Rubble, rubble, rubble! Now let's think back to the previous events leading up to today that have involved magic. Our first encounter with magic was the use of the spell Ignaze a few nights ago. A spell like this was nothing more than a flame spewed from a machine being used by the Shades.
That means Demir.
A spell that makes the caster disappear? No doubt about it, it must have been this robe. Next is the incident with Goldor, the spell that transmuted me into a gold statue. While I understand this may sound a bit absurd, I can only surmise that the Shades created a gold statue in my image, took me and left me in my place the instant the incantation was uttered. Professor, it's no more absurd than anything else that's happened so far. We can therefore conclude that all the magic in Labyrinthia was created in a similar vein. What do you say to that, Miss Darklaw? I'd expect nothing less from you, Inquisitor Layton. At any given time, there were between 5 and 10 witches in town. All of the witches were accompanied by Shades at all times. It was easier than you would think. You see, the Shades living in the Eldritch Woods total in the hundreds. It was simply a matter of having each of the Shades operate in shifts, in order to watch over each of the witches within the town.
I must say, Lady Darklaw, that is quite a number of Shades.
'Twas not only those who fell victim to the flames that were turned into shades, but their victims too were made permanent residents of the Eldritch Woods. Huh? Then, those two shady thieves from before were turned into shades? Ah, yes, you mean Robs and Mugs. Despite their dubious appearance, those two were a couple of my best shades. Shady thieves turned into shades? This stuff writes itself.